Rebecca here. So it's time for me to do my currently inked for March of 2025. Hello, Nell. Cat. Goodbye. Go away. Go. Go find somewhere else to hang. She has a box on the table. Usually she just lays inside the box because cats love boxes. There's no point in buying her fancy beds. She always chooses boxes over beds. She has about 6 fancy beds and 3 boxes, and she lives in 3 boxes. Anyway, starting my currently inked. I have my usual inky irises, and you'll notice they are a lot alike. I really stayed within a color family for many of my pens this month. So the first pen is my journaling pen, and I have filled it with a challenging ink. It's a bit dry for this nib and kind of slicey without the lubrication I'm used to. So yeah, challenging combo. This is my Franklin Christoph model 451 IPO in black. The medium steel Sig nib by Jim Rouse, and it is inked with Troublemaker Rodeo, which is a lovely brown pink. More pink than brown. Lovely color. Next up is another lovely brown pink. This is my Esterbrook Model J in violet. This is my only holdover from last month. And this has a medium steel journaler nib by Gina Salarino, which I adore. And the ink is Ferris Wheel Press Lady Rose, which is a perfect match. So, loving this combination. And the nib is very wet. It wasn't as wet when I got it. I made it wetter by flexing the tines a little bit, just a little bit, very, very carefully. I didn't want to overdo it. And now it is a nice wet nib. So this normally shady, quite shader of an ink is not so shady. It's more flat, which is just what I like. I prefer a flat ink over a shady ink. Next up is my Kaigaloo Model 316A in saffron. Now you saw this pen last month. I cleaned it out at the end of February. I changed the nib from an extra fine to a fine, and then I promptly inked it again because I figured out that it would be a perfect match for Wearing Ghoul White Rabbit. I believe it is. They look really good together. This is a nice wet, very thick fine. It writes more like a Western medium than an Eastern fine or an Asian fine. So puts down a lot of ink, makes this very light ink quite legible. And then we have Admoc M800 again. Cleaned this from last month, emptied it out, cleaned it up, dried it, and promptly filled it again with a different ink. This is the Admoc M800 in B Orange with a medium steel nib, which I made wetter. And the ink is Colorverse Alpha Ari. I'm going to show you my ink. Yeah, Colorverse Alpha Ari. Being careful how I tip that, because you'll see from the saran wrap and the elastic band, that ink came in late December or early January, I think late December, during a cold snap. I live in Canada and we had a cold snap at the time, and it froze so much and expanded so much within the glass container that it actually cracked the lid and leaked everywhere, ruined the box, ruined the boxes of a couple of other inks. And I wrote to the pen company that I had gotten the ink from, requesting please, 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 if they could, because they sell samples, could they sell me a replacement cap? And I never heard back, so I will never order from them again. So yeah, I offered to pay for a lid, and they couldn't be bothered answering my email. So no more business. Next up, sliding, knocking things around on my desk, or the table. Next up is the Opus 88 Omar in Milk Tea. Third pen that I had inked in February with a different ink, cleaned, dried, promptly inked again. I was having such a good time with this pen and this nib. So medium steel nib, very nice wet writer. And this time I decided to try it with an ink with shimmer. This is Wherein Gold, the Nightingale and the Rose, and it is a soft, hello, goodbye, a soft kind of a golden brown or greenish brown with rose gold or copper colored shimmer. So I'm not getting a lot of the shimmer from the writing, but I do see it in my inky iris. And I never really, doesn't bother me too much if I don't see the shimmer when I write. I know it's all jammed in the feed somehow and I'll have to clean it. This is my travel safe pen and a shimmer ink. Next up is my Jinhao Model 10 in the coffee gradient. Other people calling this caramel. I've heard someone call this the brown orange gradient. I guess it has different names depending on what company you buy it through. I bought it through AliExpress and they called it the coffee gradient. So it has a fine steel nib, and I made a mess thinking it was a medium, but no, it's a fine. And I inked it with Califolio Canal, a cinnamon colored ink that matches really well with the lighter part of the material. So I'm very much enjoying that. And I don't know if you could see, but in the inky iris, it's quite dark where I start with the heart in the center. That's because this nib dries out and gets some evaporation, so I have to wipe nib creep off it every time I use it, even if it's only been 12 or 15 hours. I have to wipe nib creep off and then encourage it to write, baby it along until it starts writing again. That's classified, oh, what did I call it? My knockaround pen. The Jinhao Model 10 was my knockaround. Next up is a classic pen. This is based on a classic. This itself is not a classic pen, but it is modeled on a classic. I believe a Parker 51 or something similar like that. I don't own any Parkers. So this is a Hero Model 616S in the olive green. It has a fine hooded steel nib. So it is a teeny nib. You can barely see any of the metal. It is very hooded. And I inked it with Troublemaker Kelp Tea. Classic pen, green ink. Next up is my Leonardo Momento Zero in the angel skin material. I have a medium steel stub by the Toronto Pen Company in here. This is the stub I ordered in the beginning of January, I think January 4th. It didn't come until the first week of March. It just didn't come. And it wasn't to do with the, what's the term? The Canada Post strike. It just didn't get sent. So, not impressed. However, the stub is quite lovely, and I'm very happy now that I have a more me type of nib in this pen. When I got it, all that the company I got it from had available was fine, extra fine, and broad nibs. So I bought a broad thinking I could tolerate it. I am a medium girl through and through. I wrote with the broad once, well, for 1 month in December, and realized I could not stand the broad nib. So ordered the medium stub in January. And like I say, it just came in the first week of March. So the ink is Pannonia Velvet Champagne. It is a very soft, peachy color. And I adore this ink. This is one of my favorite inks, but it really needs a wet nib to show off the color. Otherwise, it's just too dry to be legible, too light to be legible. And my last inked pen for the month is another Leonardo Memento Zero, this time in the Grande 2.0 in the material Nana Rosa, which is a stunning material. It has a plain old medium steel nib, nothing fancy. And I have inked it with Kaio no Oto Imayuiro, which is a gorgeous pink that picks up on the bright pink bits in the pen material. So I'm quite happy with this, but it is completely outside of the realm of my ink colorway collection for the rest of the month. All the other pens and inks are much more subtle, or at least the inks are much more subtle. There's subtle inks plus a green plus this hot pink. So yeah, I just wanted something bright to go with the more subtle experience I was having for the month. So I was watching a video by Karina from Karina Loves to Plan, and she has a sticker shop, and I was watching her March release video, and she does these neat ink swatch things, and I've bought some. I'll fully admit to buying someone else's ink swatch stickers. I've bought plenty of them. They are ink swatches done with different colors of ink, and I had never thought to put different colors of ink together in a splatter. And I thought, why not do splatters of my ink story, my currently inked story for the month of March. So what I have done is I took the 5 that looked alike. So Troublemaker Rodeo, Wearing White Rabbit, Ferris Wheel Press Lady Rose, Pannonia Velvet Champagne, and Colorverse Alpha Ari. And I, just a sec, there we go, swatched them together. And they are gorgeous, and you cannot see 5 distinct inks unless you're looking really closely. I put down 2 drops, 2 heavy wet drops of each color. I laid the plastic baggie over them, smeared them around, lifted the bag, placed it down a little bit more to get some little spattery bits around the outside. And you can't see 5 distinct inks. I obviously have a very clear color pattern here. So that's my swatch for the 5 similar inks. And for the 4 other inks, the Troublemaker Kelp Tea, the Califolio Canal, the Wearingle, the Nightingale and the Rose, and Kaio no Oto Imayu Iro. Oops, just ran into one of my alternate ink bottles. I have this absolutely wild ink splatter that this part looks very comfortable with each other. We have the Kelp Tea, we have the Canal, we have the Nightingale and the Rose, we have shimmer all along here from the Nightingale and the Rose, and then we have these, what the heck am I doing here? I don't belong here, hot pink splotches. So not a very well organized or well curated selection of inks this month, but I'm having fun, and that's what counts. And if you heard the rattling of glassware when I was pushing my book around, that's because I have, there we go. You saw earlier the Alpha Airy by Colorverse in the bottle with saran wrap for a cap. Well, we were given, from a friend, we were given a box with 4 mini bottles of gin from a local, local, the next province over, distillery, Black Fox. And this is a Haskap berry gin, and it was delicious, absolutely delicious. And they're based in, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And I'm going to put the ink that is in the saran wrapped bottle into 2 of these, because the Colorverse ink is 65 milliliters and these are only 50 milliliter containers. So I have 4 of them. 4 of them came in a set. And while they don't seal super duper well, they seal better than Saran wrap and elastics. So I'm going to have 2 tiny liquor bottles with ink in them. I'm looking forward to that, actually. Yeah, so that's my currently inked for the month of March, and I will probably do a brief video at the end of the month with a wrap up, but I may not. We'll see. We'll see if I have anything to say. I've made comments already. Bit dry, love this color combination, nice match, blah, yada. Nothing exciting. Just needed a hit of color and the pink. So I'm not saying anything particularly profound. We'll see which ones I write dry and which ones get ignored. So far, I'm having fun with all of them. So thank you for hanging out with me while I went through my annoyingly similar currently inked for the month of March 2025. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.